Hi, my name is Ashley Boston, and I am a strategic communications major at Liberty University. Today, my presentation will be on identity management theory, looking at communication as an idea. Dictionary.com defines idea as the concept of something in its perfection, or a person or thing conceived or as embodying such a conception and taking it as a model of imitation. Reading that definition evokes immediate thoughts of God, my spirituality, what I believe, my morals and values. How I have always tried to lead a life where I strive for perfection, knowing that I am imperfect as someone can be, but always making a conscious choice not to be okay with not trying my best, with not being a good person, not making good decisions, or just thinking, well, if I do something today where I can make it up the next day, knowing that even when I make mistakes, that I have to always try to be good every opportunity that I can to live life and have fun, of course, but also um, to really be the person and live the life that I hope to live, that I feel that I've been called to live. And in doing that, it would be impossible to do without knowing who I am as a person. This brings me to the perspective of my research. Knowing your identity, being able to identify who you are as a person, what your purpose is, your talents, your who you love, why you do what you do, how you say what you say, is all made possible after understanding who you are in a nutshell. In essence, what is the meat of Ashley? Who am I? So, in answering those questions for myself, I hope that it will in turn allow others to answer it for themselves and to really figure out what their truths are from this perspective. I pose that many failed relationships, lost friendships, one of the biggest and most prominent problems plaguing our society today is miscommunication, a breakdown in how we speak to people, what we say to them, and have no regard for the implications after the fact. So, taking Amari's and Kapach's theory and knowing that it identifies how relationships are established, how they're maintained, and the changes within those relationships is aiding and helpful in the sense of if we know how we make our relationships, the relationships we're in, whether they're our friendships, our family ships, our associateships, and yes, I just made up those words, but you get my point. Um, it's helpful in knowing why we get into the relationships that we do, and it's helpful because that tells a part of who we are as people. It gives insight into our identity. Um, Also, authors, researchers Burgoon, Guerrero, and Mansong of the Sage Handbook of Interpersonal Communication, they give further insight into identification and the identity management theory. Looking at some of their words. When communicators come together, the very first thing that happens is they have to identify one another. They have to ask certain questions in order to be able to do that. Do I know this person? Is this person to help me or to hurt me? Are they safe? Because as humans, just our makeup as people, we already have this innate capacity, ability to make those assessments, to answer those questions with no time at all. As soon as we walk into a room, it's almost like a computer. We scanned everybody. We might catch someone's eyesight and smile. Little things like that let us know if these are people we need to approach, if these are people that are good to be in our space and in our lives. And the people we allow in determines more about who we are. It is my firm belief that the relationships we have, the relationships we maintain, the ones we start, the ones we seek if we don't already have them, are the very definition of who we are as people. I say this because looking at my own life, the relationships that I've had, the choices I've made, the friendships that have lasted versus the friendships that I no longer have, I can see the different points where I changed as a person and I either no longer needed to surround myself around those people, or it was just too heavy to continue to maintain those situations. Now, for me, it might be very different for someone else. I'm an extremely emotional, sensitive person. I'm a feeler, so I go off of how I feel in your presence. And a lot of people gravitate to me naturally. I'm the confidant. I'm the one who is called on to pray for someone, to talk to them, to give advice. That has been a very hard burden, yet gift to accept and also to carry in my life up until this point. Now I know it's not going away. This is something I've been called to do. This is a part of my gift as a person, as the person God has called me to be. So, it is what it is, but I take it gladly, hesitantly, but gladly. Getting back to the research, more often than not, we project something different than who we actually are. Now, we could say that it's not always a cognitive choice to do so, but we put up these masks and we mess with the mirror a little bit so that it doesn't reflect back too harshly what's really inside all the time. And not all the time is it going to be a harsh reflection, but I think we are our own worst critics. So we develop certain masks and certain projections to fit the people we surround ourselves around. And we want to only show them the good of us. We only want to show them the parts that we know they'll respond to in a positive way. But as long as we're doing that, we put ourselves in a hole, in a sinking sand hole that's going to hold on to us, and we can't get out of it until we accept that we need to make a change. In answering these questions for yourself, you enable others to answer them for themselves. In finding your truth, you bless someone else to find their truth. My truth is, I am a loving, caring, God-fearing human being who is not perfect, but lives every day to try to be good, to try to be better, to try to serve the purpose that I've been called to serve. Identity management theory, in essence, just knowing, having the tool to know and figure out this life we live, is one of the biggest blessings we could ever have. Just digging into that. Find out who you are and why you are the person you are.